The Omega's blood pooled on the marble floor of the throne room, mixing with her tears. But what made Alpha King Kale freeze mid-sentence wasn't her wounds. It was the impossible scent of pure starlight emanating from her broken body, a scent that hadn't existed in werewolf kind for 300 years. Lyra had known this moment was coming. She'd felt it in Marcus's growing distance over the past month, in the way he looked through her instead of at her. But knowing didn't make it hurt any less when he stood before the entire moon gathering and said the words that would destroy her. I, Beta Marcus of the Crescent Pack, reject you, Lyra Kane, as my mate. The bond snapped like a dried twig. Lyra gasped, doubling over as pain lanced through her chest. Around her, the gathered wolves murmured, some pitying, most indifferent. Omegas were rejected all the time. It was just the way things were. You're too weak, Marcus continued, his handsome face cold. I need a mate who can give me strong pups. You can barely shift without collapsing. It was true. Lyra's wolf was small, sickly. She'd never understood why. Her parents had been normal wolves before they died in a rogue attack when she was 7. But something in her was broken, had always been broken. Alpha Daemon of the Crescent Pack stepped forward, his gray beard bristling with disgust. The Beta is right. You're a drain on our resources, girl. As of this moment, you are banished to the Outlands. The Outlands. Where rogues roamed and no pack law protected you. It was a death sentence. 2 guards grabbed Lyra's arms, dragging her toward the massive doors. Blood dripped from her nose, a nosebleed brought on by the mate bond breaking. Her legs wouldn't support her weight. Wait. The voice cut through the throne room like a blade. Everyone froze. Alpha King Kale stood from where he'd been observing the ceremony. He was massive, well over 6 feet, with black hair and eyes like winter storms. He'd come from the Northern Territories for the moon gathering, and Lyra had glimpsed him only once before this moment. They said he was the strongest alpha in 5 generations. That he'd killed a rabid alpha with his bare hands when he was 16. Now those storm-gray eyes were fixed on her. Release her, Kale said quietly. The guards dropped Lyra's arms so fast she collapsed to her knees. Alpha Daemon stepped forward, confused. Your Majesty, this is a pack matter. Under the old laws, any unclaimed Omega can be taken into another pack's protection. Kale's voice was calm, but there was steel underneath. Especially during a moon gathering, where all packs fall under neutral law. You can't possibly want, Daemon sputtered. She's defective. Kale moved down the steps of the dais with predatory grace. He crossed the throne room in seconds and crouched beside Lyra. This close, his scent hit her like a wall, pine and snow and something wild and electric. Her broken wolf whimpered, drawn to his power even through her pain. I claim this Omega under ancient right, Kale announced. She is now under the protection of the Northern Pack. The room erupted. Marcus looked furious. Alpha Daemon turned purple. Even Kale's own advisors, 3 stern-faced wolves who'd accompanied him, looked shocked. Your Majesty, one of them hissed, a silver-haired woman named Thorn. You cannot be serious. Kale ignored them all. He looked at Lyra, and for just a moment, something flickered in his eyes. Not pity. Something else. Something hungry. Can you stand? He asked. Lyra tried. Failed. Kale scooped her up effortlessly, cradling her against his chest. Her blood stained his expensive black shirt, but he didn't seem to notice. This is madness, Alpha Daemon protested. She'll die within a week. Then it will be on my territory, under my protection. Kale's tone invited no argument. He turned and strode toward the doors, Lyra limp in his arms. She should have felt grateful. Relieved. Instead, as consciousness began to slip away, one thought echoed in her mind. Why would a king claim a broken Omega? It had to be pity. What else could it be? Lyra woke in silk sheets. For a long moment, she just stared at the canopy above her, confusion dulling her thoughts. The last thing she remembered was being carried out of the throne room, the shocked whispers of hundreds of wolves following them. She sat up slowly, taking stock of her body. The nosebleed had stopped. Someone had cleaned the blood from her face and changed her into a soft nightgown. The room around her was huge, decorated in dark blues and silvers, with a fire crackling in an enormous stone fireplace. This wasn't a guest room. It was too personal, too lived in. There were books stacked on a desk by the window, a pair of boots near the door. A man's room. The door opened. Cale entered, and Lyra's breath caught. He'd changed into simple black pants and a loose white shirt. Without the formal clothes, he looked younger. Maybe 30. His hair was still damp, like he'd just bathed. "You're awake," he said. "Good. Where am I?" "My quarters. In the northern pack's wing of the gathering hall." He crossed to a sideboard and poured 2 glasses of water. "We leave for my territory at dawn." Lyra accepted the water with shaking hands. "Why did you do that? Claim me?" Cale sat in a chair across from the bed, studying her with those unsettling gray eyes. "Why do you think?" "Pity." The word tasted bitter. "You felt sorry for me." To her surprise, Cale laughed. It was a dark sound, humorless. "I assure you, Omega, pity is not what I feel when I look at you." Lyra's heart hammered. "Then what?" Instead of answering, Cale leaned forward. "Tell me about your parents. Your bloodline." What? Why does that matter?" "Humor me." Lyra wrapped her arms around herself. "They died when I was 7. Rogue attack. They were just normal pack members. Nothing special. I don't remember much about them." "And you've always been weak? Always struggled to shift?" "Yes." Shame heated her cheeks. "I don't know why. The pack healers said I was just born defective." Cale was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood and moved to sit on the edge of the bed. Lyra tensed, but he didn't touch her. Instead, he just looked at her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "You're not defective," he said finally. "You're dormant." "I don't understand." "You're sent." Cale's eyes gleamed. "When you collapsed in the throne room, when your blood hit the marble, I smelled something that shouldn't exist. Something I've only read about in ancient texts." "What are you talking about?" "Starlight," Cale murmured. "Pure, undiluted moonlight concentrated into a physical scent. The mark of the lunar born." Lyra shook her head. "That's just a legend. A bedtime story." "No." Cale's voice was absolute. 300 years ago, there was a bloodline of wolves who could channel the moon's power directly. They were healers, seers, warriors beyond measure. But they were hunted to extinction because other packs feared their strength. The last known lunar-born died in 1724. "You think I'm..." Lyra couldn't even finish the sentence. It was too absurd. "I don't think." "I know." Cale's hand moved, brushing a strand of hair from her face. The touch sent electricity down her spine. "Your weakness isn't a flaw. It's a cage. Something or someone has been suppressing your true nature your entire life." "That's impossible." "Is it?" Cale's eyes burned into hers. "Has anyone ever tried to truly heal you? Or did they just call you broken and move on?" Lyra opened her mouth to argue, then closed it. He was right. Every healer who'd examined her had just shaken their heads and declared her a lost cause. No one had ever dug deeper. "Even if what you're saying is true," she whispered, "why would you help me? What do you get out of this?" Cale's smile was wolfish. "The lunar-born were exterminated for a reason, Lyra. They held power that could shift the balance between packs, that could challenge even an alpha king. If you truly are what I think you are, there are wolves who will kill you the moment they realize what you smell like. So you claimed me to protect me?" "No." Cale leaned closer, his scent wrapping around her. I claimed you because a lunar born at full power, bound to me, would make my pack unstoppable. And because someone out there suppressed your abilities. Someone who knows what you are. I intend to find out who, and why. Lyra's mind reeled. This was too much. Too fast. I need time to think. We don't have time. Kale's expression turned grim. By now, my claim of you has spread through every pack at the gathering. Some will dismiss it as madness. But others will remember the old stories. They'll put together what I did. And they'll come for you. Tonight? Possibly. Kale stood, moving to the door. He locked it with an audible click. Which is why you're staying here, in my quarters, under my protection. I can sleep on the floor. No. Kale returned to the bed, and before Lyra could protest, he pulled back the covers and climbed in beside her. You'll sleep here. With me. Lyra's pulse skyrocketed. I don't understand. My scent needs to cover yours. Kale pulled her against his chest, and gods, he was warm. Solid. If assassins come, they need to believe you're fully claimed. That you're mine in every way that matters. But we're not, we haven't. I know. His breath stirred her hair. And I won't touch you that way unless you ask me to. But they don't know that. All they'll scent is me all over you. Lyra lay rigid in his arms, her mind spinning. This morning she'd been a rejected Omega facing banishment and death. Now she was in an Alpha King's bed, being told she might be part of an extinct magical bloodline. Why are you really doing this? She whispered into the darkness. Kale was quiet for so long she thought he might not answer. Then his arms tightened around her. Because 300 years ago, my ancestor helped hunt the lunar born to extinction, he said softly. It's a stain on my family's history. A sin passed down through generations. If I can save you, if I can help you become what you were meant to be, maybe I can balance those scales. Redemption, Lyra murmured. Something like that. She should have felt used. Should have been angry. But lying there in the dark, wrapped in an Alpha King's protective embrace, Lyra felt something she hadn't felt in years. Safe. Outside, footsteps echoed in the hallway. Kale's body tensed against hers, and Lyra caught the scent of strange wolves, wolves that didn't belong in this wing. The assassins had come. Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 2. The assassins never made it through the door. Lyra had lain awake in Kale's arms, listening to the footsteps pause outside, listening to the low murmur of voices. Then came the sound of a scuffle, quickly silenced. When Kale's guards reported at dawn, they'd found 3 dead wolves in the hallway, rogues hired for the kill, their bodies already turning cold. Now, 3 days later, Lyra stood at the window of her room in Kale's fortress, watching snow fall over the Northern Territory. Her room. Not Kale's. He'd moved her here the morning after the attempt on her life, into a tower suite that was beautiful and comfortable and felt exactly like a cage. The door was never locked, but guards stood outside at all hours. For her protection, Kale said. Lyra wasn't sure she believed him. She touched the silk robe she wore, deep blue, embroidered with silver thread. Everything in this room was expensive. The furniture, the clothes, the jewels left casually on the dresser as if she had any use for diamonds. She was dressed like a queen and treated like a prisoner. A knock at the door made her turn. Come in. Kale entered, looking as formidable as ever in dark leather and furs. 3 days in his fortress, and Lyra still wasn't used to the sheer presence of him. He filled every room he walked into. We need to talk, he said. About how I'm not allowed to leave this tower. About how your pack members look at me like I'm either a threat or a joke. Lyra crossed her arms. Or about how you've been avoiding me since we arrived. Something flickered in Kale's eyes. I've been busy. Right. Too busy to explain what you actually want from me. Lyra moved closer, anger giving her courage. You said I was lunar born. That my powers were suppressed. Fine. But you haven't told me why you really claimed me. What do you get out of this, Kale? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he moved to the window, staring out at the snow-covered pines. My pack is cursed. Lyra blinked. What? 50 years ago, my grandfather killed a witch who was trying to steal from our territory. With her dying breath, she cursed our bloodline. Kale's jaw tightened. Every full moon, our strongest warriors, the ones with the most alpha blood, transform into something else. Something mindless and violent. We have to chain them in the dungeons until the moon passes. Some don't survive it. Horror crept up Lyra's spine. That's why you need me. My powers. According to the old texts, only a lunar born at full strength can break a curse tied to the moon itself. Kale turned to face her. That's why I recognized your scent. Why I claimed you. My pack is dying, Lyra. In another generation, we won't have enough warriors left to defend our territory. So I'm not a person to you. I'm a cure. You're both. His eyes met hers. I won't lie to you. I need what you can become. But that doesn't mean I don't see you. You've barely looked at me since we got here. Because looking at you is dangerous. The words came out rough. Because every time I'm near you, I want to. He cut himself off, shaking his head. It doesn't matter. Training starts today. Vera will work with you. Vera? My second. She'll help you access your wolf, strengthen your body. We need to break through whatever's suppressing your power. Kale moved toward the door. Be in the training yard in an hour. He left before Lyra could respond. Vera was everything Lyra wasn't. Tall, muscular, with a scar running from her left eyebrow to her jaw. She moved like violence incarnate, all controlled power and barely leashed aggression. When Lyra entered the training yard, an open space behind the fortress where snow had been cleared away, Vera looked her up and down with open disdain. This is what the king brought home? Vera's voice dripped contempt. You look like a strong wind would break you. Nice to meet you too, Lyra muttered. We'll start with basics. Shift for me. Lyra's stomach dropped. I can't. Not reliably. Can't or won't? Can't. Shame heated her cheeks. My wolf is, she's broken. Nothing's broken that can't be fixed. Vera circled her like a predator. You've been coddled. Told you were weak so many times you believed it. Well, here's the truth, Omega, you shift, or you die. That's how it works in my pack. I'm not in your pack. You're in mine until the king says otherwise. Vera's smile was sharp. Now shift, or I'll make you. Lyra tried. She reached for her wolf, that small, sickly presence in the back of her mind. For a moment, she felt the beginnings of the change, bones starting to crack, for trying to sprout. Then pain lanced through her body and she collapsed, gasping. Vera caught her before she hit the ground. What was that? I don't know. Lyra's voice shook. It always happens. Like something stopping me. Vera's eyes narrowed. She pressed her hand against Lyra's chest, and power flowed from her touch, sharp and assessing. After a moment, she swore viciously. You've got a binding on you. A strong one. Vera let her go, pacing. Someone put a magical lock on your wolf. That's why you can't shift properly. How is that possible? Who would do that? Someone who knew what you were. Someone who wanted to keep you weak. Vera's expression was grim. This changes things. We can't break a magical binding with training alone. You need a witch. The king killed the last witch in his territory. Not the last. Just the last hostile one. Vera pulled Lyra to her feet. There's one who lives on the border. She owes Cale a favor. I'll talk to him about taking you to her. Before Lyra could respond, shouts erupted from the fortress entrance. Both women turned as guards rushed forward, weapons drawn. A contingent of wolves had arrived, strangers wearing the colors of the Crescent Pack. And at their head was Marcus. Lyra's breath caught. She hadn't seen him since the rejection, and the sight of him now brought all the pain rushing back. He looked the same, handsome, confident, with that easy smile that had made her fall for him in the first place. That smile was fixed on her now as he strode across the courtyard, ignoring Vera's warning growl. Lyra, Marcus said warmly. Thank the moon. I've been searching for you. What are you doing here? Lyra's voice came out steadier than she felt. Coming to fix my mistake. Marcus stopped a few feet away, and his expression turned pleading. I was wrong, Lyra. So wrong. Rejecting you was the biggest mistake of my life. You said I was too weak. That you needed a strong mate. I was a fool. I was scared of how much I felt for you, scared of being vulnerable. Marcus reached for her hand. Lyra stepped back. Please, come home with me. We can do the ceremony again, reforge the mate bond. I'll spend the rest of my life making this up to you. Something was wrong. Lyra could feel it in her bones. Marcus had never been good at lying, and right now, everything about him screamed desperation. No, she said simply. Marcus's expression flickered. Lyra, please. The Omega said no. Cale's voice cut through the courtyard like a blade. He appeared from the fortress, flanked by guards, his expression carved from ice. You have no claim on her, Beta Marcus. Leave my territory. With respect, Your Majesty, Lyra is my mate. Was your mate. Until you rejected her publicly. Cale moved to stand beside Lyra, and she felt power roll off him in waves. You severed that bond. It's done. Bonds can be repaired. Not when she doesn't want them to be. Cale's eyes were winter storms. I won't ask again. Leave. Marcus's mask slipped. Anger flashed across his face, followed by something uglier, fear. You don't understand what you're protecting. She's not what you think she is. On the contrary. Cale's smile was dangerous. I know exactly what she is. The question is, how do you? Silence fell across the courtyard. Marcus's face went pale. Who paid you? Lyra heard herself ask. The pieces were clicking together in her mind. To reject me. Someone paid you, didn't they? Lyra. Don't lie to me. Power surged through her body, foreign and electric. The guards stumbled back. Even Cale looked surprised. You never wanted to reject me. You loved me. So someone made you. Who was it? Marcus looked like he might be sick. I can't tell you. They'll kill me. They'll kill my whole family. Who? Cale demanded. I don't know. Marcus's voice broke. I never saw their face. They came to me a month ago, told me to reject Lyra publicly at the moon gathering. Said if I didn't, everyone I loved would die. They paid me in gold and threats. Why? Lyra whispered. Why did they want me rejected? They said you needed to be isolated. Vulnerable. That the rejection would weaken you enough for. Marcus cut himself off, shaking his head. I can't. Please, Lyra, just come with me. Get away from the Alpha King. These people, whoever they are, they have reach. They have power. You're not safe here. She's safer here than anywhere else, Cale said coldly. Guards. Escort Beta Marcus and his wolves to the border. If they return, kill them. Marcus looked at Lyra one last time, something desperate and pleading in his eyes. Then he was dragged away, still calling her name. Lyra stood frozen, her mind reeling. Someone had orchestrated her rejection. Had wanted her weak and alone. But why? Inside, Cale said quietly. Now. She let him guide her back into the fortress, Vera trailing behind them. They ended up in Cale's study, a massive room lined with books and weapons. Cale poured 3 glasses of whiskey with steady hands and passed them out. So someone's hunting her, Vera said, downing her drink. Someone with enough power to threaten a beta and his family. Someone who knows what she is. And they wanted her vulnerable for a reason. Cale's jaw was tight. The assassination attempt. Marcus's appearance. This is coordinated. But why go to all this trouble? Lyra's hands shook around her glass. I'm nobody. A weak Omega who can't even shift properly. You're lunar born. Cale met her eyes. That makes you dangerous to certain people. What people? Instead of answering, Cale moved to his desk and pulled out an old leather journal. He flipped through pages covered in faded handwriting until he found what he was looking for. This belonged to my grandfather. He was obsessed with the lunar born, spent years researching them after the hunts ended. Cale set the journal in front of Lyra. There's an entry here about the last known high priestess of the moon goddess. She was killed 23 years ago by unknown assassins. She had a daughter, a child who was supposed to inherit her power and position. Lyra's blood went cold. 23 years ago. That's when I was born. The daughter was never found. Everyone assumed she died with her mother. Cale's eyes were intense. But what if she didn't? What if someone hid her, suppressed her powers, tried to make her invisible? You think Lyra couldn't finish the sentence. I think your parents weren't killed by rogues. I think they were killed because they were hiding you. Cale's voice was gentle now. I think you're not just lunar born, Lyra. I think you're the moon goddess's last high priestess. The room spun. Lyra gripped the desk for support. That's impossible. Is it? Vera leaned forward. Think about it. The binding on your wolf. The orchestrated rejection. Someone's been controlling your life since you were a child, keeping you weak and hidden. Why would they do that unless you were a threat? But I'm not a threat to anyone. You are if you come into your full power. Cale moved closer. A high priestess can do more than break curses, Lyra. She can commune directly with the moon goddess. She can bless or curse entire packs. She can challenge alpha authority, reshape pack law. You're not just dangerous, you're revolutionary. Lyra's mind was fracturing. This morning she'd been worried about training. Now she was supposed to believe she was the daughter of a murdered high priestess. That her entire life had been a lie. I need air, she gasped, stumbling toward the door. Lyra. Don't. She whirled on Cale, and something in her must have shown on her face because he stopped. Don't follow me. Don't explain. Just, give me a minute. She fled before either of them could stop her. Lyra ended up on the battlements, staring out at the darkening forest. Snow had started falling again, and the cold bit through her thin clothes, but she didn't care. She needed to feel something real, something solid. Running won't help. She turned to find Cale standing behind her, his expression unreadable. I thought I told you not to follow me. You did. He moved to stand beside her at the wall. I don't take orders well. Funny. I thought that was an Alpha King's whole thing. Giving orders, yes. Taking them? Cale's lips quirked. Not so much. Despite everything, Lyra almost smiled. Then the weight of the revelations crashed back down on her. How am I supposed to process this? That my parents might have been murdered? That I might be someone important? I can't even shift properly, Cale. How am I supposed to be a high priestess? The same way anyone becomes what they're meant to be. Cale turned to face her fully. One day at a time. One choice at a time. And if I can't? If I'm not strong enough? You are. His hand came up to cup her face, thumb brushing her cheekbone. You survived years in a pack that called you worthless. You survived rejection and banishment. You survived assassination attempts. You're stronger than you know, Lyra. His touch sent electricity through her body. Lyra found herself leaning into it, craving more. You're just saying that because you need me. I'm saying it because it's true. Cale's eyes dropped to her lips. And yes, I need you. But not just for your power. Then what? He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. Cale kissed like he did everything else, with absolute confidence and intensity that stole her breath. His hands slid into her hair, tilting her head back, and Lyra gasped against his mouth. He tasted like whiskey and winter storms. She should have pushed him away. Should have remembered this was the Alpha King, that he was using her, that this was dangerous. Instead, she grabbed his shirt and pulled him closer, kissing him back with a desperation that surprised them both. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Cale rested his forehead against hers. That shouldn't have happened. No, Lyra agreed, her voice shaky. It shouldn't have. It can't happen again. Definitely not. Neither of them moved. The space between them felt electric, charged with possibility and danger in equal measure. There's something between us, Lyra whispered. Something that's not just about my bloodline or your curse. I know. Cale's hand was still in her hair. I felt it the moment I saw you bleeding on that throne room floor. Before I knew what you were. It's why I had to claim you. The mate bond isn't supposed to work like this. You can't have two mates. But even as he said it, Lyra could feel it, that golden thread forming between them, stronger than what she'd had with Marcus. Deeper. Unless the first bond was never real, Lyra finished. Unless someone manipulated it. Made me think Marcus was my mate when he wasn't. Cale's expression turned dangerous. That would take powerful magic. Blood magic. Which means whoever's hunting me has access to a witch. Vera's voice made them both jump. She'd appeared on the battlements like a ghost. Sorry to interrupt, but we have a problem. What kind of problem? Cale asked, his hand dropping from Lyra's hair reluctantly. The kind where one of the council members was just found dead in his room. Throat torn out. By claws. Vera's expression was grim. And there are traces of lunar-born scent all over the body. Lyra's blood went cold. No. I didn't, I've been here the whole time. I know. Vera's eyes were sympathetic. But someone wants us to think you did. Someone in this fortress is trying to frame you for murder. Cale swore viciously. Who found the body? Elder Thomas. He's already calling for Lyra's arrest. Vera looked at Lyra. I'm sorry, but you need to come with me. For your own protection. Protection or imprisonment? Lyra asked bitterly. Both, probably. Vera's honesty was almost refreshing. But if you run, it'll look like guilt. We need to clear your name. Cale's hand found Lyra's. I won't let them hurt you. Whatever's happening, whoever's behind this, we'll figure it out. Lyra wanted to believe him. But as guards appeared on the battlements, as Vera gently took her arm and led her away, as she caught sight of the hostile faces gathering below, one thought echoed through her mind. Someone in Cale's own court wanted her dead. And they were willing to frame her for murder to make it happen. The question was, who? And how deep did the betrayal go? Wanting to see what would happen next, subscribe to this channel to get to listen to more of our upcoming exciting stories. Click on the subscribe button now. Thank you. Chapter 3. The cell they put Lyra in wasn't a dungeon. Cale had insisted on that much. It was a room in the fortress's lower levels, furnished and warm, but the door was locked and guards stood outside. A comfortable cage was still a cage. Lyra paced the length of the room for the 100th time, her mind racing. Someone had murdered a council member and made it look like she'd done it. Someone who had access to her scent, who knew enough about lunar-born powers to fake the evidence. The door opened. Cale entered, and Lyra's breath caught. He looked wrong somehow, his movements too sharp, his eyes too bright. When he spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. "The council wants you executed." Lyra's stomach dropped. That was fast. Elder Thomas is convincing. He's always hated outsiders. Cale moved closer, and Lyra could smell the tension rolling off him. "I bought us 3 days. Until after the full moon." "Why after?" Cale's jaw tightened. "Because if I'm going to fight the entire council to protect you, I'd rather not do it while I'm chained in a dungeon transforming into a monster." The full moon. Lyra had almost forgotten. "When?" "Tomorrow night." Cale's hands clenched into fists. "I need you to stay here. Stay safe. The fortress becomes a war zone during the transformation. What happens to you?" "Nothing good." His smile was bitter. "I become something that would kill you without hesitation. That's what the curse does. It strips away everything human, everything civilized, and leaves only the beast." Lyra moved closer, drawn by the pain in his voice. "How long does it last?" "From moonrise to moonset." "About 12 hours. Cale's eyes met hers, and there was fear there. Real, human fear. "Lyra, if something happens to me, if I don't survive this moon, Vera will get you out. She'll take you to the border witch, help you break the binding on your wolf. Don't trust anyone else in this fortress. You're going to survive. You don't know that." "Yes, I do." Lyra took his hand, threading her fingers through his. "Because I'm going to break this curse. I'm going to figure out how to access my power, and I'm going to save you." Cale pulled her closer, his forehead dropping to rest against hers. "You can't save everyone, little wolf. Watch me." He kissed her then, desperate and hungry, like he was drowning and she was air. Lyra kissed him back with equal fervor, pouring all her determination and fear and hope into it. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Cale's eyes had gone molten silver. "I have to go," he said roughly. "The moon's pull is getting stronger. I'm not safe to be around." Cale. 3 days, Lyra. Survive 3 days, and I promise we'll figure this out together. He stepped back, and the loss of his warmth felt like a physical wound. "Vera will bring you books on lunar-born rituals. Maybe you can find something that will help." He left before she could respond. Vera arrived an hour later with a stack of ancient texts and a grim expression. "These are everything we have on the lunar-born. Most of it's probably myth, but there might be something useful." "Thank you." Lyra took the books, noting the titles: Songs of the Moon Goddess, The Lost Priestesses, Rituals of Power and Blood. "Vera, can I ask you something?" "Depends on the question." "Why do you follow Cale? Why are you loyal to him?" Lyra set the books down. "You don't seem like the type to follow anyone blindly." Vera was quiet for a long moment. Then she sat in the chair across from Lyra, her scarred face thoughtful. 7 years ago, I was in a pack that believed females existed to breed and serve. When I challenged my alpha for the right to train as a warrior, he had me whipped publicly. 20 lashes. Lyra's breath caught. Cale was visiting our territory on diplomatic business. He saw what was happening and intervened. Killed my alpha in single combat, declared the pack's treatment of females a violation of the old laws. Vera's hand unconsciously touched her scar. He gave every female in that pack a choice, stay or leave. I left. Became his second. He's the only alpha I've ever met who sees strength as strength, regardless of gender. He's a good man. He's a complicated man. Vera's eyes were sharp. He's done things he's not proud of. Things that haunt him. But he's trying to be better. That's more than most alphas can say. What things? But Vera was already standing. Read the books. If you find a ritual that might work, we'll try it tomorrow before the moon rises. Maybe we can break your binding and the curse in one go. She left, and Lyra was alone with the ancient texts. She read through the night, absorbing everything she could about the lunar born. Most of it was legend and speculation, but a few passages made her skin prickle with recognition. The lunar born do not draw power from the moon, they are the moon's power made flesh. Their strength is not in their bodies but in their souls, in the connection they hold to the goddess herself. To awaken a dormant lunar born, one must sever all earthly bonds. Only when stripped of mortal connections can the divine emerge. Lyra read that passage 3 times, her heart pounding. Sever all earthly bonds. Did that mean the mate bond forming between her and Kale? The fragile connection she'd come to rely on? She kept reading. Near the back of Rituals of Power and Blood, she found what she was looking for. The rite of severing can break any magical binding, but the cost is high. The supplicant must willingly cut themselves off from all bonds, mate, pack, family. For the duration of the ritual, they exist outside the natural order, untethered and alone. In this state, true power can emerge, but so can madness. Use with extreme caution. Lyra stared at the words until they blurred. This was it. A way to break the binding on her wolf. But it would also break the bond with Kale. At least temporarily. Could she do that? Could she willingly cut herself off from the one person who made her feel less alone? Did she have a choice? The next day, as the sun began its descent toward the horizon, Lyra told Vera about the ritual. Absolutely not, Vera said immediately. Severing all bonds? That's insane. You could lose yourself completely. Or I could finally access my power and break Kale's curse. Or you could die. Vera paced the room like a caged wolf. These rituals aren't games, Lyra. They're dangerous even for experienced practitioners. I have to try. Lyra's voice was steady. If I don't, Kale and his warriors will keep suffering. People will keep dying. And whoever's hunting me will keep getting away with it. Vera stared at her for a long moment. Then she swore viciously. Fine. But I'm supervising. If anything goes wrong, I'm pulling you out. Deal. They set up the ritual in Lyra's room, following the instructions in the book exactly. A circle drawn in salt. Candles at each cardinal point. Lyra knelt in the center, the ancient words of the rite of severing written on parchment before her. Last chance to back out, Vera said. Lyra shook her head and began to read. The words felt strange on her tongue, an old dialect she shouldn't know but somehow understood. Power began to build in the room, making the candles flicker wildly. Lyra felt something inside her beginning to crack, like ice breaking up in spring. Then she reached the final verse, I sever the chains that bind me. I stand alone before the goddess. I am untethered. I am free. The world exploded. Pain lanced through Lyra's chest as the bond with Kale, that golden thread she'd barely acknowledged, snapped like a broken wire. She screamed, doubling over. But worse than the physical pain was the emptiness that rushed in to fill the space where the bond had been. She was alone. Completely, utterly alone. And then the memories came. They hit her like a flood, visions that weren't hers, pulled from the severed bond's remnants. Kale's memories. Kale at 20, leading a raid on a sanctuary. Screaming Omegas fleeing into the night. The scent of blood and smoke. His father's voice, they harbor enemies of the pack. Show no mercy. Bodies in the snow. So many bodies. Women, children. Their only crime was being born weak. A woman with dark hair pleading, please, my son, he's just a boy, Kale's sword falling. The light leaving her eyes. Years later, Kale standing in a graveyard, staring at a headstone. His mother's grave. The mother he'd never known was an Omega from that very sanctuary. The mother his father had hidden and then killed when her weakness became an embarrassment. Cale falling to his knees in the snow, understanding what he'd done. Who he'd killed. The monster he'd become. Lyra came back to herself gasping, tears streaming down her face. Vera was shaking her, shouting her name, but Lyra couldn't hear her over the roaring in her ears. Cale was a murderer. He'd led a massacre against Omegas. Against people like her. Lyra. Vera's hand cracked across her face, and the world snapped back into focus. Are you okay? Talk to me. I saw, Lyra's voice broke. I saw what he did. The sanctuary. The Omegas. Vera's expression went carefully blank. He told you about that? The bond showed me. Before it broke. Lyra struggled to her feet, her whole body shaking. He killed them. Women and children. How can you follow someone like that? Because he was 20 years old and following his father's orders. Vera's voice was hard. Because he spent the last 15 years trying to atone for it. Because that massacre is why he changed the laws about Omega treatment, why he protects the weak, why he claimed you in the first place. That doesn't excuse. No, it doesn't. Vera stepped closer. Nothing excuses what he did. But he knows that. He lives with it every day. Why do you think he's so desperate to break the curse? It's not just about saving his warriors. It's about saving himself from becoming that monster again. Lyra sank onto the bed, her mind reeling. The bond was gone, and without it, she could see Cale clearly, not as her mate, not as her savior, but as a man. A flawed, broken man carrying the weight of terrible sins. Could she forgive that? Should she? The sun setting, Vera said quietly. You need to decide. The binding on your wolf, did the ritual break it? Lyra reached for her wolf and felt nothing. The binding was still there, maybe even stronger now. The ritual had failed. No, she whispered. It didn't work. Then we're out of options. Vera moved to the door. Stay here. Lock the door from the inside. Don't open it for anyone until sunrise. The transformation is starting. As if to punctuate her words, a howl rose from somewhere deep in the fortress, agonized and inhuman. More howls joined it, a chorus of pain. Vera, Lyra called as the warrior reached the door. Where's Cale? The dungeon. Where he'll stay until the curse passes. Vera's expression softened slightly. For what it's worth, everything he's done, good and bad, he did it as himself. The curse doesn't make him kill. It just makes him forget why he shouldn't. Then she was gone, and Lyra was alone with her choices. She could run. Without the bond tying her to Cale, she could slip away during the chaos, disappear into the wilderness. She had 3 days before the council's deadline. That was enough time to get far away from here, from Cale's past and her own dangerous bloodline. Or she could stay. Face the monster Cale became. Try to find another way to break the curse and save them all. Lyra stood at the window, watching the moon rise over the mountains. Its light was beautiful and terrible, calling to something deep inside her. Another howl split the night, closer this time. Then came the sound of metal screeching, something breaking out of its chains. Lyra's decision crystallized in that moment. She couldn't run. Not from this. Whatever Cale had done, whatever he'd been, he was trying to be better. That had to count for something. She grabbed a cloak and headed for the door. The fortress was chaos. Lyra crept through corridors filled with the sounds of snarling and combat. Guards ran past her, weapons drawn, heading for the dungeons. She followed at a distance, her heart hammering. The dungeon entrance was guarded, but the guards were distracted by something inside, roars and crashes that made the stone walls shake. Lyra slipped past them and down the stairs. The dungeon was a nightmare made real. Massive cells lined both walls, and in each one, a creature paced and snarled. They looked like wolves but wrong, too large, too twisted, with eyes that held no recognition or mercy. These were Kale's warriors, transformed by the curse. At the end of the corridor was the largest cell. And in it was Kale. He was enormous in his cursed form, easily 9 feet tall, with black fur and silver eyes that held no trace of humanity. He threw himself against the bars with such force that the metal groaned. His claws left deep gouges in the stone floor. Lyra approached slowly, her hands raised. Kale? The beast's head snapped toward her. For a moment, he went completely still. Then he lunged at the bars, snapping and snarling, trying desperately to reach her. I know you're in there, Lyra said, her voice steady despite her fear. I saw your memories. I know what you did, and I know why you're trying so hard to make up for it. But you don't have to do this alone anymore. The beast roared, but something in the sound was almost questioning. I'm going to break this curse, Lyra continued. I don't know how yet, but I will. Because despite everything, despite your past and my fear, there's something between us that's real. Something worth fighting for. She stepped closer to the bars. The beast tracked her movement, muscles coiled to spring. So hold on, Lyra whispered. Just hold on until sunrise. Can you do that for me? For a heartbeat, the silver eyes flickered, just a flash of recognition. Then the beast snarled and turned away, pacing the far wall of the cell. Lyra released a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. She'd reached him, just for a moment. A sound from behind her made Lyra spin. A figure stood in the dungeon entrance, hooded and holding a crossbow aimed directly at her heart. Should have run when you had the chance, a familiar voice said. The hood fell back, revealing Marcus. How did you get in here? Lyra demanded. Your fortress is too busy managing monsters to notice a few rogues slipping in. Marcus moved closer, the crossbow steady. Did you really think I'd give up that easily? I told you, they'll kill my family if I don't bring you back. Who are they? Does it matter? Marcus's expression was desperate. I'm sorry, Lyra. But I have to do this. Behind her, Kale's cursed form slammed against the bars, sensing danger. The other beasts took up the alarm, roaring and howling. Marcus, please. I'm not the only one who got in. Marcus glanced toward the stairs. My pack is here. We're taking you, and we're burning this place to the ground. Maybe with the Alpha King dead, whoever's hunting you will finally leave my family alone. Horror crawled up Lyra's spine. You're going to kill them? All of them? I'm going to do whatever it takes to survive. Marcus took another step forward. Now come quietly, or I put a bolt through your heart and carry your corpse out. Your choice. Lyra's mind raced. She was unarmed, surrounded by cursed beasts, with a crossbow pointed at her. No way to call for help. No way to fight. Unless. She thought about the ritual. About severing bonds to access her power. What if the binding on her wolf wasn't keeping her weak? What if it was keeping something else contained? The Lunar-born do not draw power from the moon, they are the moon's power made flesh. Lyra closed her eyes and reached deep inside herself. Past the sickly wolf. Past the binding. Down to something ancient and vast and terrifying. And she pulled. The binding shattered like glass. Power exploded through Lyra's body, not gentle, not careful, but savage and absolute. She screamed as her bones cracked and reformed, as her body expanded and shifted. But this wasn't the weak, painful transformation she remembered. This was transcendent. When the change completed, Lyra stood on 4 legs, and the dungeon suddenly seemed much smaller. She looked down at her paws, massive, with claws like silver knives. Her fur was pure white, glowing faintly in the moonlight filtering through the high windows. She was enormous. Bigger than the cursed warriors. Bigger than Kale in his beast form. Marcus had dropped the crossbow, backing away in terror. "What are you?" Lyra opened her mouth and spoke, her voice coming out in a growl that somehow formed words. "Not an Omega." The realization hit her with the force of a physical blow. The binding hadn't been suppressing her lunar-born powers. It had been hiding what she really was. An alpha. Not just any alpha, a primordial alpha, the first type, the strongest type, thought extinct for 1,000 years. The curse on her parents. The assassination. The binding placed on her as an infant. It all made sense now. Someone had known what she was, had hidden her power to keep her safe. Or to keep the world safe from her. Marcus lunged for the stairs, but Lyra was faster. She leaped over him, blocking his escape, her growl shaking the stone walls. Behind her, Kale's cursed form had gone completely still. The other beasts had stopped their thrashing. They all sensed what she was, an alpha more powerful than any of them. The dungeon doors burst open. Rogues poured in, Marcus's pack, armed and ready for slaughter. They took one look at Lyra and froze. "Retreat," one of them whispered. "By the goddess, retreat." But it was too late. Lyra felt instinct take over, ancient, primal instinct buried in her bones. This was her territory now. These were intruders. And she was the alpha. She roared, and the sound was like thunder in the confined space. The rogues scattered, some trying to flee, others frozen in terror. Lyra moved through them like a white storm, her claws and teeth finding targets with brutal efficiency. She wasn't trying to kill them. Just incapacitate. Protect. Within minutes, the rogues were either unconscious or fleeing back up the stairs. Marcus cowered in a corner, his eyes wide with shock. Lyra padded toward him, her massive form towering over his. She could kill him so easily. One swipe of her claws, and the man who'd rejected her, who'd betrayed her, would be gone. But she didn't. Instead, she shifted back to human form, a seamless, painless transition that left her standing naked and powerful in the moonlight. "Go," she said quietly. "Tell whoever sent you that Lyra Kane is done running. Done hiding. If they want me, they can come themselves." Marcus scrambled to his feet and ran. Lyra stood alone in the dungeon, breathing hard, trying to process what had just happened. Behind her, Kale's cursed form pressed against the bars of his cell. She turned to face him. Those silver eyes were fixed on her, and for the first time since the transformation, she saw awareness there. Recognition. He knew what she was now. What she'd always been. "I'm sorry I lied to you," Lyra said, even though she knew he couldn't understand. "But I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." Kale made a sound, low and rumbling. Not aggressive. Almost protective. Lyra approached the cell and pressed her hand against the bars. Kale's massive paw came up to meet it, careful not to scratch her with his claws. "We're going to fix this," she promised. "All of it. The curse. The murders. Whatever's hunting me. We'll figure it out together." Kale's eyes held hers, and for a moment, the bond that had been severed sparked back to life, different now, stronger, forged not in need but in choice. The moon continued its arc across the sky, and Lyra stayed in the dungeon until dawn, keeping watch over the beasts that would be men again come morning. She was done being the weak Omega everyone thought she was. It was time to become the alpha she was always meant to be. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 4. Dawn broke over the northern fortress, painting the snow-covered mountains in shades of gold and pink. In the dungeons, the cursed warriors began to shift back to human form, screaming, bleeding, but alive. Lyra watched from the corner where she'd wrapped herself in a guard's abandoned cloak. She'd stayed all night, keeping vigil, and now exhaustion pulled at her bones. But she couldn't look away as Kale's massive beast form began to shrink, black fur receding, bones cracking back into human shape. When the transformation completed, he collapsed onto the cell floor, naked and gasping. Blood streaked his skin from where he'd torn at the chains. His silver eyes found hers immediately. Lyra. His voice was hoarse. You stayed. I wasn't going to leave you. She moved to the cell door as guards rushed down the stairs with keys and blankets. Are you okay? I will be. Cale stood on shaking legs as a guard unlocked his cell and threw a blanket around his shoulders. He moved toward Lyra like a man in a dream. What I saw last night, what you became, was real. Lyra lifted her chin. I'm a primordial alpha. The binding wasn't just suppressing my lunar-born powers. It was hiding what I really am. Silence fell across the dungeon. Every guard, every warrior, every person within earshot froze. Someone dropped their keys with a clatter that echoed like a gunshot. Vera appeared at the top of the stairs, took one look at the scene, and swore. Well, that's going to be a problem. Within an hour, the entire fortress knew. Lyra stood in Cale's study, dressed in borrowed clothes that didn't quite fit, and watched through the window as the pack gathered in the courtyard below. News traveled fast in a wolf pack, and this news was explosive. They're demanding a council session, Vera said, pacing the room like a caged animal. Elder Thomas is whipping them into a frenzy. He's calling you a threat, saying you'll destroy the pack hierarchy. Ancient law is clear, Cale said quietly from where he sat at his desk. He looked haggard, the curse always took its toll, but his eyes were sharp. Two alphas cannot rule one territory. One must submit, or they must fight to the death. Lyra turned from the window. I'm not going to fight you. The council won't care about what you want. Vera stopped pacing. They'll demand Cale either reject you publicly or execute you. Those are the only options that preserve pack law. There has to be another way. There isn't. Cale stood, moving toward her. I've been studying pack law since I was old enough to read. The rule exists for a reason. Two dominant alphas in one territory always leads to war. The pack splits, families are torn apart, wolves die. So what are you saying? Lyra's throat tightened. That after everything, you're just going to kill me? No. Cale's hand cupped her face. I'm saying we need to be smart about this. The council meets in an hour. We need a strategy. A knock at the door interrupted them. A young guard entered, her face pale. Your Majesty, there's a situation in the courtyard. Some of the warriors they're pledging loyalty to the Omega. To Lady Lyra. Vera cursed again. It's already starting. The pack's splitting. Cale moved to the window. Below, Lyra could see a group of about 30 wolves kneeling in the snow, their heads bowed. More were joining them even as she watched. Why? Lyra whispered. Why would they follow me? Because you're powerful, Vera said bluntly. Because you saved them from the rogues last night. Because some of them have always resented Cale's rule and see you as an opportunity for change. She paused. And because you're female. There are wolves in this pack who've been waiting for a female alpha their entire lives. Lyra's head spun. She'd gone from rejected Omega to primordial alpha in the span of one night, and now she was inadvertently starting a civil war. I don't want their loyalty, she said. I don't want to challenge you, Cale. I just want. She stopped, because she didn't know what she wanted anymore. Everything had changed too fast. Cale turned from the window, his expression grim. We go to the council meeting. We face this head-on. And we figure out a solution that doesn't end with one of us dead. But even as he said it, Lyra could see the doubt in his eyes. The council chamber was packed. Lyra entered beside Cale, feeling every eye in the room track her movement. The council sat in a semicircle of ornate chairs, 5 elders who governed alongside the Alpha King. Elder Thomas sat at the center, his expression radiating smug satisfaction. Alpha King Cale, Thomas began without preamble. You have brought a threat into our midst. A primordial alpha who has already begun fracturing pack loyalty. Ancient law demands action. Ancient law was written for different times, Kale replied calmly. The primordial alphas have been extinct for 1,000 years. There is no precedent for this situation. The precedent is clear: 2 alphas, 1 territory, ends in blood. Thomas leaned forward. You must reject her and banish her from our lands. Or execute her as a threat to your throne. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. But not everyone agreed. Lyra could see several council members exchanging uncertain glances. I propose a third option, Kale said. Lyra and I form a co-rulership. Share power equally. The chamber erupted. Thomas shot to his feet. Impossible. It's never been done. Because no one's ever tried. Kale's voice cut through the chaos. We're facing unprecedented circumstances. Perhaps it's time for unprecedented solutions. The pack will never accept it, another elder said, a woman named Helena with silver hair. They'll see it as weakness. Other packs will challenge us, sensing division. Let them try. Kale's eyes were cold. Any pack foolish enough to attack us will face both a traditional alpha king and a primordial alpha. I'd like to see them survive that. It was a good argument, Lyra thought. Logical. But she could see Thomas's face darkening with rage, and something about his reaction made her skin prickle with unease. No, Thomas said flatly. I invoke the right of challenge. As senior council member, I demand that if Alpha King Kale will not remove this threat, then the pack must choose its leader. Trial by combat. Kale versus the primordial. The room went dead silent. You can't be serious, Vera growled from her position by the door. I invoke ancient right. Thomas's smile was vicious. The pack will vote whether to accept the challenge. All in favor? 3 hands went up immediately. Helena hesitated, then slowly raised hers as well. That made 4 out of 5. The challenge is accepted, Thomas declared. 3 days from now, at noon, Alpha King Kale and the Primordial will fight to the death. The winner takes the pack. The loser dies. So says ancient law. Kale's expression remained neutral, but Lyra felt rage building inside her. This was insane. They couldn't actually expect her to fight Kale. To kill him. I refuse, she said clearly. Thomas turned to her, his eyes gleaming. Then you forfeit. And forfeit means immediate execution. Guards. Wait. Kale's voice stopped the guards in their tracks. He looked at Lyra, and something passed between them, understanding, resignation, determination. We accept the challenge. 3 days. We'll be ready. Lyra wanted to protest, but Kale's hand found hers and squeezed once. Trust me, his eyes said. She did. Goddess help her, she did. They retreated to Kale's study immediately after the council session. Vera had barely closed the door before Lyra rounded on Kale. What are you doing? I can't fight you. You won't have to. Kale moved to his desk and pulled out a sheaf of papers. This was a setup. Thomas wanted this outcome. He practically engineered it. Why? Because he knows something we don't. Kale spread the papers across his desk. Notes, letters, lists. I've been investigating the council for weeks. Ever since you arrived and I started feeling off. Lyra moved closer. Off how? Tired. Weak. The curse has been getting worse each month, but I thought it was just age. Kale's jaw tightened. Then last night, during the transformation, I had a moment of clarity. I remembered Thomas visiting me every morning for the past 3 months. Bringing me tea personally. Always insisting I drink it before our meetings. Vera swore. Poison. Slow acting. Designed to weaken me gradually so no one would suspect. Kale looked at Lyra. He's been planning this for months. The murdered council member, the framed job, it was all to turn the pack against you, to force this challenge when I'm at my weakest. But why? Lyra's mind raced. What does he gain from all this? Instead of answering, Cale pulled out one more document, old, yellowed with age. I found this in the archives last week. It's a birth record from 23 years ago. Your birth record. Lyra's breath caught. She took the document with shaking hands. The names were there in faded ink: Mother, Selene Kane, High Priestess of the Moon Goddess. Father, unknown. Child, Lyra, born under the blood moon, marked as primordial. My mother, Lyra whispered, was murdered when you were 6 months old. The investigation was led by, Cale paused, Elder Thomas. He was much younger then, newly appointed to the council. He ruled it a rogue attack and closed the case within a week. He killed her. The realization hit Lyra like a physical blow. He knew what I was, what my mother was. He killed her and tried to kill me. But someone saved you. Put the binding on your wolf to hide what you were, placed you with a pack far from here where you'd be safe. Cale's expression was grim. Whoever did that died before they could tell anyone the truth. Your adoptive parents, probably. Killed by rogues when you were 7. Lyra sank into a chair, her legs suddenly unable to support her. So Thomas has been hunting me my entire life. And now he's engineered a situation where either you kill me or I kill you, and he wins either way. Unless we turn it around on him. Cale knelt in front of her, his hands covering hers. We pretend to go along with the challenge. We train separately, play up the rivalry. Meanwhile, we gather evidence of his crimes, the poisoning, the murders. When we step into that arena in 3 days, we're not fighting each other. We're exposing a traitor. It was a good plan. A smart plan. But Lyra couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. What if the evidence isn't enough? What if the pack demands blood anyway? Then we improvise. Cale's thumb brushed over her knuckles. But I'm not losing you, Lyra. Not to Thomas, not to ancient law, not to anyone. The door burst open. Vera stumbled in, her face ashen. We have a problem. A big one. What now? Cale stood. The pack doctor needs to see Lyra. Immediately. She's been scanning all the warriors after last night's transformation, checking for curse damage. Vera's eyes met Lyra's. She found something. In you. The doctor's office was small and sterile, smelling of herbs and antiseptic. Lyra sat on the examination table while Dr. Sarah, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, studied her with concern. How long have you known? Sarah asked. Known what? Lyra's heart hammered. That you're pregnant. The world tilted. Lyra gripped the edge of the table. That's not possible. I can't be, Cale, and I never. It doesn't require full intercourse. Sarah's voice was gentle. Close contact, his scent on your skin, the partial bond forming between you, it's rare, but alphas as powerful as King Cale can sire children through proximity alone. Especially with a mate. Lyra's mind reeled. She looked at Cale, who had gone completely still. How far along? About 4 weeks. Right around when he first claimed you. Sarah hesitated. There's more. The child, it has the potential to be even more powerful than either of you. A primordial alpha child born to an alpha king. It's unprecedented. Goddess, Vera breathed. This changes everything, Cale said quietly. He was right. A pregnancy made Lyra vulnerable. Made her a bigger target. And if Thomas found out? No one can know, Lyra said firmly. Not until after we deal with Thomas. Agreed. Cale's expression was unreadable. Sarah, you tell no one. Not even the other healers. Understand? Sarah nodded. Of course, Your Majesty. They left the doctor's office in tense silence. Lyra's hand unconsciously moved to her stomach. There was a life growing inside her. A child. Cale's child. The thought terrified and awed her in equal measure. Lyra, Cale started. Not now. She couldn't process this yet. Couldn't think about what it meant. We have to focus on Thomas. On staying alive. Everything else can wait. But even as she said it, Lyra knew nothing would ever be the same. That night, Lyra couldn't sleep. She stood on the balcony of her room, staring at the stars, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. A sound made her turn. A figure stood in the shadows, familiar, unexpected. Marcus stepped into the moonlight. How did you get in here? Lyra demanded. I never left. Marcus's expression was haunted. I've been hiding in the fortress, waiting for a chance to talk to you alone. To tell you the truth. What truth? About us. About the bond. Marcus moved closer. Lyra, what you felt with me, what we had, it was real. It was always real. You rejected me. Because I was forced to. But that doesn't change what we are. Marcus pulled out a small vial from his pocket. It contained a dark liquid that seemed to absorb the moonlight. This is the truth. The proof. Lyra took the vial, examining it. What is this? Proof that the bond between you and Cale is artificial. Manufactured by dark magic. Marcus's voice was urgent. Someone, probably Thomas, used blood magic to create a false mate bond between you and the Alpha King. To control you both. But I'm your true fated mate, Lyra. I always have been. No. No, that couldn't be right. You're lying. Am I? Marcus pulled out another document, this one sealed with a witch's mark. I went to the border witch. Had her test the bond. She confirmed it. You and Cale, it's not real. It never was. Lyra stared at the document, her heart sinking. The witch's analysis was clear, artificial bond detected. Created through blood magic and sustained by proximity. Not fated. Not true. Why are you telling me this? She whispered. Because you have a choice now. A real choice. Marcus took her hands. Come with me. Leave this place, leave Cale, leave all the politics and danger. I can take you somewhere safe. Somewhere we can be together, raise your child in peace. I'll love that baby as my own, Lyra. I'll give you the life you deserve. It was everything she should want. Safety. Love. Freedom from the political nightmare she'd been thrust into. Marcus was offering her an escape. But as Lyra looked into his eyes she'd once loved, she felt nothing. No pull. No warmth. Just emptiness. You said the rejection was forced, she said slowly. That someone threatened your family. Yes. But you still said the words. You still hurt me. Lyra pulled her hands away. And now you show up offering salvation, conveniently right when staying here becomes most difficult. How do I know you're not working for Thomas too? Marcus's expression cracked. Because I love you. I've always loved you. No. Lyra shook her head. You love the idea of me. The weak Omega who needed you. But I'm not her anymore, Marcus. I'm a primordial Alpha carrying an Alpha King's child. I don't need your rescue. You're choosing him. After knowing the bond is fake? Yes. The realization settled over Lyra like a warm blanket. Because fake or not, what I feel for Cale is real. What we've built together is real. He's seen me at my worst and my strongest, and he's never tried to make me into something I'm not. You're making a mistake. Maybe. Lyra moved toward the door. But it's my mistake to make. Goodbye, Marcus. I hope you find someone who actually wants the life you're offering. She left him standing on the balcony, his offer of freedom and love rejected. And as she walked through the dark corridors back toward Cale's study, Lyra felt lighter than she had in days. The bond might be manufactured, but her choice to stay was entirely her own. She found Cale bent over his desk, studying documents by candlelight. He looked up as she entered, and something in his expression told her he'd been waiting for her. Marcus was here, she said without preamble. Cale went very still. I know. My guards reported seeing him on your balcony. I told them to let him through. You deserve to hear what he had to say. He told me our bond is artificial. Created by blood magic. Lyra moved closer. Is it true? I suspected. Cale's voice was careful. The speed at which it formed, the intensity, it didn't follow normal patterns. But I didn't want to tell you until I was sure. And now you are? Now I am. He stood, moving around the desk. Thomas used dark magic to bind us together. Probably hoping it would make you easier to control, or give him leverage over both of us. I don't know yet. So everything between us started as a manipulation. Yes. Cale cupped her face. But Lyra, what we've become, that's real. The bond might be fake, but my feelings aren't. The way I respect you, trust you, want you, that's all real. Lyra looked up at him, this complicated man who'd led massacres and spent years atoning. Who'd claimed her to save her and stayed because he couldn't imagine letting her go. The bond might be manufactured, but the love, yes, love, that was growing between them was entirely genuine. Marcus offered me freedom, she said quietly. Safety. A chance to escape all of this. Cale's expression shuddered. What did you say? I said no. Lyra rose on her toes and kissed him, soft and sure and real. Because I'd rather have complicated and dangerous with you than safe and boring with anyone else. Cale's arms came around her, pulling her close. We might die in 3 days. The plan might fail. Thomas might win. Then we die together. Lyra smiled against his lips. But I think we're going to live. I think we're going to expose Thomas, break the curse, and build something new. Something that's never existed before. A co-rulership? A partnership? Lyra pulled back to meet his eyes. Fake bond or not, you're mine, Cale. And I'm yours. That's real enough for me. Cale kissed her again, deeper this time, pouring everything he couldn't say into the touch. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he pressed his forehead to hers. 3 days, he murmured. We take down Thomas. We save the pack. And then we figure out what comes next. Lyra's hand found his. Together. Outside, the moon hung full and bright in the sky. In 3 days, they would step into an arena before the entire pack. In 3 days, they would gamble everything on a desperate plan. But tonight, wrapped in each other's arms, they were just Cale and Lyra. Not Alpha King and Primordial. Not enemies forced to fight. Just 2 people who'd found something real in the middle of all the lies. And that, Lyra thought as sleep finally claimed her, was worth fighting for. No matter the cost. If you're still listening to this story up to this point, why don't you subscribe to this channel to continue getting impactful daily stories like this? We would be most grateful if you can do that to help boost this video to reach everyone. Thank you. Chapter 5. The blood moon rose crimson and swollen over the northern fortress, painting everything in shades of rust and copper. Lyra stood in her quarters, dressed in ceremonial fighting leathers, and watched its ascent with a calm she didn't feel. Tonight, she would either expose a traitor or die in front of the entire pack. You ready? Vera entered without knocking, her own armor gleaming in the moonlight. The challenge circle is prepared. Every pack in the kingdom has sent representatives. There must be 1,000 wolves out there. Good. Lyra turned from the window. The more witnesses, the better. When we expose Thomas, I want everyone to see. If we expose Thomas. Vera's expression was grim. We still don't have concrete proof of the poisoning. Just suspicions and circumstantial evidence. Then we make him confess. Lyra checked the hidden blade strapped to her thigh, insurance, in case the plan went sideways. Where's Cale? In his quarters. Preparing. Vera hesitated. Lyra, whatever happens out there, know that some of us will follow you to the end. You've earned loyalty these past weeks. Real loyalty, not the kind bought with fear. Lyra pulled Vera into a brief embrace. Thank you. For everything. Don't get sentimental yet. We might all die tonight. Always so optimistic. Vera's laugh was dark. Someone has to be realistic around here. A bell tolled from the fortress tower, deep and resonant. The summoning bell. Time to face judgment. Lyra took a breath, centered herself, and walked toward her fate. The challenge circle had been erected in the fortress's largest courtyard, a ring of white stones blessed by pack priests, 40 feet across, with torches burning at each cardinal point. Beyond it, thousands of wolves gathered in a massive semicircle, their eyes reflecting the blood moon's light like a constellation of stars. Lyra walked through the crowd with Vera at her side. Wolves parted before her, some bowing, others glaring. The pack was divided, she could feel it, half desperate for change, half terrified of what she represented. Elder Thomas stood at the circle's edge with the other council members, his expression radiating satisfaction. The primordial arrives. How generous of you to grace us with your presence before we watch you die. I'm not going to die tonight, Thomas. Lyra met his eyes without flinching. But someone is. His smile faltered for just a moment. Then Cale emerged from the opposite side of the courtyard, and every eye turned to him. He looked magnificent and terrible, an alpha king in his prime, dressed in black leather and furs, power radiating from every movement. His eyes found Lyra's across the circle, and something passed between them. Understanding. Trust. Love. Tonight, one way or another, it ended. By ancient law and pack right, we gather under the blood moon to witness trial by combat, Thomas announced, his voice carrying across the courtyard. Alpha King Cale of the Northern Pack versus Lyra Kane, Primordial Alpha. The winner claims the throne. The loser dies. Let no wolf interfere, on pain of death themselves. Cale stepped into the circle. Lyra followed. The moment her foot crossed the white stones, she felt it, a surge of ancient magic, locking them in. No one could leave until one of them fell. Any final words? Thomas called out, barely suppressing his glee. Just one. Cale's voice was calm. Truth. He moved faster than Lyra expected, closing the distance between them in a heartbeat. But he wasn't attacking, he was speaking, low and urgent, words meant only for her. Thomas is going to make a move. I can feel it. When he does, we shift together. Combined power. Don't hold back. Lyra nodded fractionally. Then, loud enough for the crowd to hear, she snarled, "Is that all you've got, King? I expected more from the wolf who killed my mother." Gasps rippled through the crowd. Cale's eyes widened, that wasn't part of the plan. But Lyra pressed on, her voice ringing clear. 23 years ago, the High Priestess Selene Kane was murdered. The investigation was closed in days, ruled a rogue attack. But it wasn't rogues, was it? Lyra turned to face Thomas. It was you. You killed her because she knew what I was. Because she refused to let you use my bloodline for your own ambitions. Thomas's face went purple. Lies. The primordial speaks lies to save herself. Then explain this. Cale pulled a document from his belt, the birth record, the investigation files, all the evidence they'd gathered. Explain why the High Priestess's murder investigation was closed by you personally. Why you were seen near her sanctuary the night she died. Why you been poisoning me for months to weaken me for this exact moment? The crowd erupted. Wolves surged forward, shouting questions and accusations. The council members looked shocked, all except Thomas, whose expression had gone from rage to something darker. Something hungry. You think you're so clever, Thomas said softly. You think you've won. He raised his hand, and power exploded from his palm, dark, viscous, wrong. It hit the circle's barrier and instead of bouncing off, it absorbed into the white stones. The torches at the cardinal points flared crimson. What are you doing? Helena demanded, stumbling back from her seat. Finishing what I started. Thomas's voice changed, deepened, resonating with unnatural power. 23 years I've waited. 23 years planning, preparing, positioning myself perfectly. Did you really think I was just an elder? Just a council member? His form began to shift, not into a wolf, but into something else. Something ancient and terrible. His face elongated, his body expanded, and when he spoke again, his voice was layered with others. I am Thomas Kane. Brother of Selene. Uncle to the primordial. His smile was a nightmare. And I killed my sister because she was weak. Because she wanted to use the old bloodlines for peace when they could be used for so much more. Lyra's blood went cold. Your family? I'm your only family. Thomas, no, this thing wearing Thomas's shape, gestured, and the dark magic in the circle pulsed. Your mother wanted to hide you away, suppress your power, keep you safe. But I knew better. I knew that a primordial's blood, properly harvested, could grant godhood. Could make me immortal, all-powerful, unkillable. You're insane, Kale growled. I'm visionary. Thomas's form continued to change, growing larger, more monstrous. I've spent decades studying blood magic, dark rituals, forbidden power. I orchestrated everything, your mother's death, the binding on Lyra's wolf, even the curse on your pack, Kale. All of it leading to this moment. The blood moon rising. The primordial trapped in a sacred circle. And me, ready to harvest her power and ascend. He threw out both hands, and the blood moon's light concentrated into beams that struck the circle. The magic barrier shifted from protective to prison. And then Thomas unleashed the full curse. It happened in waves. First, the warriors closest to the circle began to scream. Their bodies contorted, bones cracking, fur sprouting in unnatural patterns. But this wasn't the normal curse transformation, this was worse. Their eyes went black, devoid of all reason, and they turned on each other with savage hunger. The transformation spread like wildfire. Within seconds, hundreds of wolves were shifting into mindless beasts, attacking anyone near them. The courtyard became a massacre. No. Vera tried to maintain her form, fighting the curse's pull, but even she fell to her knees, growling in pain. Inside the circle, Lyra and Kale stood untouched. Thomas's magic couldn't reach them yet, the sacred stones protected them. But it was only a matter of time. He's using the blood moon to amplify the curse, Kale said, his voice tight. Everyone except us. We'll die. Thomas's monstrous form loomed over the circle. Unless you give me what I want, niece. Step out of the circle. Let me harvest your primordial essence. Or watch everyone you've ever known tear each other apart. Lyra's mind raced. Outside the circle, the pack was destroying itself. She could see wolves she'd trained with, laughed with, falling to the curse. Could see Vera struggling to hold on to her humanity. There has to be a way to break it, she said desperately. There is. Kale's hand found hers. The old text said only combined power could break a curse this strong. A lunar born and an alpha king working in perfect harmony. But I'm not just lunar born. You're primordial. Which means you're even stronger. Kale pulled her close. But we need to merge our power completely. No holding back. No barriers between us. Lyra understood what he was saying. To merge power that completely, they would need to merge everything, minds, souls, their very essences. It was dangerous, potentially fatal. Once merged, they might not be able to separate again. The bond, she whispered. Thomas said he created it, but what if he was wrong? What if the bond was always there, just dormant? What if his magic didn't create it, just amplified it? Cale's eyes widened. The old prophecy. About the primordial and the king. Two souls, one heart, united in truth. I thought it was metaphorical. Maybe it wasn't. Lyra laced her fingers through his. Maybe we were always meant to find each other. Maybe Thomas's magic just accelerated what was already destined. Outside the circle, wolves were dying. There was no more time for doubt. Together? Cale asked. Together, Lyra confirmed. They shifted as one. Lyra's primordial form exploded into being, massive, white, glowing with moonlight. Cale's alpha form matched her, dark as night, crackling with stormborn power. And then they reached for each other not with claws, but with something deeper. Their souls. The bond between them, artificial or not, it didn't matter anymore, flared to life like a supernova. Lyra felt Cale flood into her consciousness, his memories, his emotions, his very being merging with hers. She gave herself to him in return, holding nothing back. And in that moment of perfect unity, they understood. The bond had always been real. Thomas's magic hadn't created it, it had simply revealed it, forced it into existence before its natural time. They were true mates, destined mates, in a way that transcended normal pack bonds. They were meant to be equals. Combined, their power was devastating. Lyra felt it building between them like a gathering storm, ancient and new, primordial and alpha, moon and earth and sky all at once. Now. Cale's voice echoed in her mind. They released it. Power exploded from the circle in a wave of silver and black light, washing over the courtyard like a tsunami. Everywhere it touched, the curse shattered. Wolves stopped mid-attack, their minds suddenly clear, their bodies shifting back to human form. The dark magic that had gripped them dissolved like smoke in sunlight. Thomas screamed, a sound of pure rage and disbelief. No. This isn't possible. The curse was unbreakable. You forgot something, Uncle. Lyra and Cale spoke in unison, their voices layered, their powers still merged. You studied blood magic and dark rituals. But we have something older. Something you can never understand. Love, Cale said. Choice, Lyra added. Truth, they finished together. Thomas lunged at the circle, trying to breach it, but the protective barrier that had kept them prisoner now kept him out. He slammed against it again and again, his monstrous form beginning to fracture. You think you've won? Thomas snarled. You've just condemned yourselves. That much power merged, you'll never separate. You'll be stuck as one consciousness, one being, forever. Good, Lyra said simply. She felt Cale's agreement resonate through their merged souls. This wasn't a curse. It was a gift. They weren't losing themselves, they were becoming something new. Something unprecedented. But Thomas wasn't finished. He pulled a knife, ancient, carved with runes, and slashed his own palm. Blood dripped onto the ground, and the earth began to shake. If I can't have godhood, no one can. He plunged the knife into the ground, and dark magic erupted from the wound. I'll take this entire fortress down. Every wolf dies. Especially you. The fortress walls began to crack. Wolves screamed, running for cover. The ground split open in massive fissures. Lyra, Cale said urgently. Your primordial power, you can stop this. You can channel all that dark magic into yourself, neutralize it. It'll kill me. Or make you human. Strip away your power completely. His consciousness wrapped around hers, protective and desperate. I won't lose you. We'll find another way. But Lyra knew there wasn't another way. Someone had to absorb the dark magic before it destroyed everything. And she was the only one strong enough. She began to pull away from their merged form, preparing to sacrifice herself. Kale stopped her. No. If you're doing this, I'm doing it with you. We take the magic together. We become human together. Kale. I don't want to be an Alpha King without you. His voice was absolute. I don't want power or a throne or any of it if it means losing you. So we do this together, or not at all. Lyra felt tears on her face, impossible, in wolf form, but real nonetheless. There might be a third way. What? We don't separate. We don't take the magic into ourselves individually. Lyra's mind was racing, pieces clicking together. We create something new. A true equal bond, not one submitting to the other, but both becoming something greater. We take the dark magic and transform it. Use it to forge a bond that's never existed before. That's impossible. Everything about us is impossible. Lyra pulled their consciousness back together, tighter than before. Trust me. One more time. Kale didn't hesitate. Always. They dove deeper into their merged state, past consciousness, past memory, down to the fundamental essence of what they were. And there, in that impossible space between souls, they forged something new. Not an alpha bond. Not a mate bond. Something equal and eternal and unbreakable. The dark magic Thomas had unleashed rushed toward them like a flood. Instead of fighting it, Lyra and Kale channeled it into their new bond, using the curse's own power to fuel their transformation. The magic screamed as they purified it, transformed it, made it something clean and bright and new. When it was done, they stood in the circle, separate again, but fundamentally changed. Their bond was visible now, a cord of silver and black light connecting their hearts, pulsing with combined power. Thomas stared at them in horror. What have you done? Created balance, Lyra said, her voice her own again but carrying echoes of Kale's strength. Forged equality, Kale added, his power now tempered with Lyra's wisdom. Became what we were always meant to be, they said together. And then they moved. The fight was brief and brutal. Thomas tried to flee, but there was nowhere to run. Lyra's primordial speed and Kale's alpha strength, perfectly synchronized, cut off every escape route. They moved like two parts of one being, because in a way, they were. You killed my mother, Lyra said, her claws finding Thomas's throat. You cursed innocent wolves. You tried to destroy everything for your own ambition. You've lost, Kale growled. And now you face justice. Thomas laughed, wet and desperate. You can't kill me. I'm family. You're not a monster, Lyra. You're not like me. You're right. Lyra's eyes blazed silver. I'm nothing like you. Which is why I'm not going to kill you. She channeled power into Thomas, not to destroy, but to strip. His dark magic, his unnatural transformation, his stolen power, all of it dissolved under her touch. Within seconds, he was just a man. Old, frail, powerless. I'm giving you what you fear most, Lyra said quietly. A long life is exactly what you despised. Weak. Ordinary. Human. Thomas collapsed, whimpering. Guards moved forward to take him away, to a cell, to trial, to whatever justice the pact demanded. Lyra stepped out of the circle, exhausted but alive. Kale followed, their bonds still glowing between them. The courtyard was silent, thousands of wolves staring at them in awe. Elder Helena was the first to speak. What are you? The future, Kale said simply. If you'll accept it. The restructuring took weeks. With Thomas's treason exposed and the curse broken, the pact demanded change. Lyra and Kale gave it to them, a complete overhaul of pack hierarchy that honored all designations equally. Omegas gained seats on the council. Warriors could challenge for leadership regardless of birth rank. Power would be earned, not inherited. And at the center of it all, a co-rulership. Two alphas, equal in power, united by an unbreakable bond. Some packs resisted. Some refused to accept the new order. But word spread of what had happened under the blood moon, of the curse breaking, the traitor falling, the birth of something unprecedented. And slowly, wolves began to arrive at the northern fortress, pledging loyalty to the new regime. Marcus was among them. He came quietly, without fanfare, and knelt before Lyra and Chaol in the throne room. "I don't expect forgiveness," he said. "But I want to serve. To protect what you're building here. If you'll have me." Lyra looked at the man who'd once been everything to her and felt only distant affection. The new order needs wolves willing to change. To grow. Can you do that? I can try. Then you're welcome here. Lyra extended her hand. Not as a mate. Not as anything but a pack member. Can you live with that? Marcus took her hand and smiled, sad but genuine. I can. He became head of the fortress guard, leading a new division dedicated to protecting refugees and outcasts. It wasn't redemption exactly, but it was a start. 3 months later, Lyra stood on the battlements at dawn, watching the sun rise over the mountains. Her hand rested on her swollen belly, 6 months pregnant now, the twins growing strong. Dr. Sarah had been right. The children were unprecedented, one carrying alpha markers, one carrying omega. Both equally powerful. Both perfect. Couldn't sleep? Chaol joined her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. Too much on my mind. Lyra leaned into him, feeling their bond pulse with warmth. We're really doing this. Changing everything. We are. Chaol's hand covered hers on her belly. Scared? Terrified? Lyra smiled. But also excited. Hopeful. All these things I never thought I'd feel. You're not the weak Omega they told you were. No. Lyra turned to face him. I'm not weak. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm thriving. We're thriving. She kissed him as the sun painted them in gold and rose, two alphas united, two souls merged, two hearts beating as one. Behind them, the fortress was waking, a pack being reborn, a new order taking shape. Below, in the courtyard, wolves trained together regardless of designation. Omegas sparred with alphas. Betas led strategy sessions. The rigid hierarchy that had defined pack life for centuries was dissolving, replaced by something fluid and strong and new. This was the prophecy fulfilled. Not one alpha submitting to another, but two becoming equals. Not power through domination, but strength through unity. Lyra pulled back from the kiss and looked out over her territory, her home. You know what the best part is? What? This is just the beginning. Chaol laughed, the sound rich and free. Just the beginning, he agreed. And as the sun climbed higher, bathing the northern fortress in light, Lyra stood with her king beside her, not above, not below, but equal, and knew that everything she'd survived, every trial she'd endured, had led her exactly where she was meant to be. No longer weak. No longer. Just surviving. Thriving, with her mate beside her, her children growing within her, and a future bright with possibility stretching out before them all. The primordial and the king. Two souls, one heart, united in truth. Just as the prophecy had always intended. Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe, like and share this video to continue listening to this type of story daily and also, to appreciate this community too. I would like to hear your wonderful opinion about this story. Please comment below.